I want to tell you about something that happened to me years ago when I was sitting across from a trader who had just blown through his third funded account in 8 months. He was talented, sharp, the kind of person who could read a chart the way most people read a newspaper. But when I asked him why he thought he kept failing, he looked me straight in the eye and said, "I just need to be more disciplined." And right there in that simple sentence, I heard the lie. Not because discipline isn't important, it is, but because he was using that word the way people use a blanket to cover something they don't want to look at. What he was really saying, without knowing it, was this: if I just control myself better, everything will be fine. And that's the lie we're going to talk about today. The one traders tell themselves every single day. The one that sounds responsible, even mature, but keeps them locked in the exact same cycle they're desperately trying to escape. Because here's the truth. The real reason most traders fail isn't what they think it is. It's not that they lack discipline. It's not that they haven't found the right strategy. It's not even that they're unlucky or that the market is against them. The real reason is simpler and harder to admit. Most traders are lying to themselves about what they actually want. Now, I know that might sound strange at first. You might be thinking, of course I know what I want. I want to be profitable, I want consistency, I want freedom, and yes, on the surface, that's true. But let me ask you something. If you really wanted consistency, why do you keep taking trades that don't fit your plan? If you really wanted long-term success, why does the thought of missing one setup cause you so much anxiety that you force an entry? If you really wanted discipline, why does it disappear the moment you feel fear or excitement? The answer is uncomfortable, but it's the key to everything. You want something else more. And until you're willing to see what that something else is, you'll keep sabotaging yourself in ways that feel completely out of your control. Let me explain what I mean. When you take a revenge trade after a loss, you're not being undisciplined. You're being perfectly disciplined toward a different goal. In that moment, what you want more than anything is to erase the feeling of being wrong. You want to prove to yourself that you're still capable. You want to restore the emotional equilibrium that the loss shattered. And the only way your mind knows how to do that right now is to get back in the market. So you do, and you tell yourself it's a good setup. You tell yourself you see something. But deep down, if you're honest, you know it's not about the setup at all. It's about the feeling. When you move your stop loss because a trade is going against you, you're not breaking a rule. You're following a deeper rule that says, I cannot be wrong about this. There's a part of you that believes if you just give it a little more room, a little more time, the market will prove you were right all along. And being right, in that moment, feels more important than protecting your capital. And so you wait. You tell yourself you're being patient, that you're waiting for confirmation. But what you're really doing is protecting yourself from the possibility of pain. Do you see what's happening here? In every single one of these moments, you're acting with perfect internal logic. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're just optimizing for the wrong thing. And the lie you tell yourself is that you want to be a consistently profitable trader, when what you actually want, in the moment, is to feel safe, to feel right, to feel in control, to avoid discomfort. Now, none of this makes you a bad person. It makes you human. But it does mean that until you become aware of this gap between what you say you want and what you're actually optimizing for, nothing will change. You can read every trading book ever written. You can backtest until your eyes hurt. You can journal and review and promise yourself that tomorrow will be different. But if you don't address the underlying emotional need that's driving your behavior, you'll just keep repeating the same patterns with different setups. So let's go deeper. Why do we do this? Why do we lie to ourselves? It starts with something very simple. We don't like uncertainty, and trading is nothing but uncertainty. Every single trade you take is a probabilistic event in a complex system you can't control. You can do everything right and still lose. You can do everything wrong and still win. There's no direct cause and effect in the way our brains want there to be. And that creates a problem, because human beings are wired to seek patterns, to find control, to make the world predictable. It's how we survived as a species. So we inherited brains that are incredibly good at finding patterns, even when they don't exist. We inherited brains that will do almost anything to avoid the feeling of being out of control. And trading puts that ancient wiring under enormous stress. Every time you take a trade, your brain is screaming at you to know what's going to happen, to be certain, to have control. And when you can't have that because the market doesn't work that way, your brain does something clever. It creates the illusion of control. It tells you that if you just analyze more, if you just find the right indicator, if you just wait for the perfect confirmation, then you'll know. Then you'll be safe. Then you can avoid the losses and catch the winners. But that's the lie, because there is no amount of analysis that will give you certainty. There is no perfect indicator. There is no setup so clean that it can't fail. And when you spend your energy chasing that illusion, you're not becoming a better trader. You're just becoming better at lying to yourself. The second part of this, the part that makes it even more complicated, is ego. Not ego in the way most people think about it, not arrogance or overconfidence. I'm talking about something deeper. The part of you that has spent your entire life building an identity around being smart, being capable, being someone who figures things out. And trading threatens that identity every single day. Because in trading, being smart isn't enough. Being educated isn't enough. Being analytical, hardworking, dedicated, none of it guarantees success. You can do everything your plan says to do and still have a losing month. You can be completely right about the direction of a market and still get stopped out for a loss. And for someone who's used to success being a reflection of effort and intelligence, that's devastating. So the ego steps in. It starts creating stories. Stories about why you lost. Stories about why this time is different. Stories about how you're not like other traders, how you see things they don't, how you just need to trust yourself more. And those stories feel good, they feel true. They feel true. They protect you from the unbearable possibility that maybe, just maybe, you're not as in control as you thought. But there's still lies. Let me give you an example. You have a losing trade. It happens. The market moved against you. You got stopped out. The trade is over. That's just information. That's just data. But your ego can't leave it there. Your ego needs a reason. So it tells you a story. Maybe the story is that you were too early. Maybe it's that there was some piece of news you didn't account for. Maybe it's that the market is manipulated, that you would have been right if you just held on a little longer. And all of these stories do the same thing. They protect your sense of being right. They let you avoid the simple, uncomfortable truth that trading involves losses, and this was one of them. But here's the problem. Once you start telling yourself these stories, you stop learning, because you're not actually looking at what happened anymore. You're looking at a version of what happened that's been filtered through your need to protect your ego. And the next time you trade, you're not making decisions based on reality. You're making decisions based on the story you told yourself about reality. Do you see how subtle this is? You're not trying to deceive yourself. You genuinely believe what you're thinking. But belief and truth are not the same thing. And in trading, the gap between them will cost you everything. Now, there's another layer to this. Another way the lie shows up. It's in the words we use, the way we talk to ourselves. How many times have you said, "I need to be more disciplined"? How many times have you thought, if I just stick to my plan, everything will work out? These sound like reasonable things to say, but listen to what's underneath them. When you say you need more discipline, what you're really saying is that the problem is a lack of willpower. That if you just tried harder, controlled yourself better, forced yourself to follow the rules, then you'd succeed. But discipline isn't the problem. The problem is that you're trying to use discipline to override your emotional system instead of understanding it. If you're taking revenge trades, it's not because you lack the discipline to stop yourself. It's because, in that moment, the emotional need to recover, to prove yourself, to erase the discomfort is stronger than your commitment to the plan. And no amount of willpower can fight that forever. Because willpower is a finite resource. It runs out. It gets depleted by stress, by decision fatigue, by emotional intensity. And trading is full of all three. So if your entire strategy is to white-knuckle your way through the emotional challenges of trading, you're going to fail. Maybe not today, maybe not this week. But eventually, in a moment when you're tired or scared or frustrated, that willpower will run out. And you'll do the thing you promised yourself you wouldn't do. And then you'll tell yourself you just need to be more disciplined. Do you see the cycle? You're using the wrong tool for the job and then blaming yourself when it doesn't work. What you actually need is not more discipline. What you need is awareness. You need to understand what's driving the behavior in the first place. You need to see the emotional need underneath the action. Because once you see it, once you really see it, you have a choice. You can't control your emotions, but you can't choose how you respond to them. Let me be clear about something. None of this means your feelings are bad or wrong. Fear isn't the enemy. Greed isn't the enemy. Frustration, impatience, excitement, none of these things are the problem. The problem is when you're not aware of them, when they're running the show from behind the curtain, making decisions that you later attribute to strategy or discipline or lack thereof. The problem is the lie that you're in control when you're not. So, what does awareness actually look like? It looks like being able to pause in the middle of a strong emotional pull and say to yourself, I want to take this trade. And I can feel that the wanting is coming from fear, not from the setup. It looks like noticing the story your mind is telling you and asking, is that actually true? Or is that just what I need to believe right now to feel okay? It looks like recognizing the difference between a decision that serves your long-term goals and a decision that serves your immediate emotional comfort. And here's the thing. When you can do that, when you can see the lie clearly, it loses its power. Not all at once, not forever, but in that moment you create space. Space to choose differently. You might still feel the fear. You might still want to move your stop. You might still have the urge to jump into a trade that doesn't fit your plan, but now you know what's happening. You're not acting on autopilot anymore. You're making a conscious choice. And that changes everything. Because trading success isn't about eliminating emotions. It's about developing the capacity to feel them without being controlled by them. It's about being able to sit with uncertainty without needing to resolve it immediately. Being able to experience a loss without needing to fix it right away. Being able to feel the fear of missing out without acting on it. And that capacity, that ability to be with your experience without being run by it, that's not something you can force with discipline. It's something you develop through awareness. So let me ask you something. What's the lie you've been telling yourself? Is it that you just need more discipline? Is it that you're waiting for the right strategy? Is it that you'll be fine once you have a bigger account, more experience, better tools? Or is it something deeper? Maybe it's that you're trying to prove something to yourself, to someone else. Maybe you're trying to make up for something you feel you lack in another area of your life. Maybe trading has become the place where you try to feel worthy, capable, in control. And if that's true, if any of that resonates, then no amount of technical knowledge is going to fix this. Because you're not really trading the market, you're trading your self-worth. And that's a game you can't win. The market doesn't care about your story. It doesn't care if you need this win to prove yourself. It doesn't care if you're tired of losing or desperate to succeed or convinced that this time will be different. It just moves according to forces far beyond your control. And until you can accept that, until you can let go of the need for the market to validate you, you'll keep running into the same wall. But here's the good news. Once you see the lie, once you're willing to look at what's really driving your behavior, everything becomes simpler. Not easier, simpler. Because now you're working with reality instead of against it. You stop fighting yourself. You stop pretending you're something you're not. You stop trying to force outcomes and start focusing on process. You start to understand that trading isn't about being right. It's about being consistent. It's about managing risk. It's about executing your plan even when it's uncomfortable. Not because you're disciplined, but because you've decided that your long-term success matters more than your short-term emotional comfort. And that's a decision you make, consciously, over and over again. That's what separates traders who eventually succeed from those who keep repeating the same patterns year after year. It's not glamorous, it won't feel like a breakthrough. It's just you sitting with yourself, being honest about what you see. But that honesty, that willingness to look clearly, that's where everything begins. And maybe, just maybe, that's what you needed to hear today. If this resonated with you, I'd appreciate if you'd share it with another trader who might need to hear it. Until next time, trade with awareness, not against yourself.